Hello, beautiful people. My name is Amanda Zitto. If you are new here, I make motorcycle travel vlogs, how-tos, and general encouragement for you to get out and do the thing. We're going to talk about all of the trips that I tackled in 2021, or at least the ones that I tracked. I didn't track the couple of overnighters that I did in March, but I did track my trip home in April, the tour of Oregon that I did in May, our trip on the Idaho BDR that I did in June, or at least the first two sections. My trip to get on ADV Fest in South Dakota in July. I didn't actually track my expenses for Rocky Mountain Roll because that was just kind of a different thing. The weekend trip for the Orygun Run that I did in early September, and then the trip to Overland Expo West in Flagstaff, Arizona at the end of September. And in total, for all of these trips, it was $3,982. Also, I rode 10,600 miles in 2021, all on my beautiful Briarios. So I tracked these trips in an app called Travel Spend. You can use the free version or there is a paid version. I use the premium version just because it opens a couple of different features that I like to have during the summertime, and then I turn off my subscription in the wintertime when I'm not using it as much. So the April trip home ended up costing $511. That was partly because I was doing a few other projects at that point also. So we're gonna skip that and go straight to the May tour of Oregon because it was the first proper series of 2021, where I took 8 days to do a big loop of Oregon. I met my brother on the eastern half of the state, and we spent most of our time trying to find a dry place to sleep because it rained pretty much the whole time after I got to the eastern half of the state, which is also part of the reason why my accommodation kind of went off the charts for this trip because we stayed in hotels a lot. So in total, the tour of Oregon cost me $535 with an average spend of $53.59 per day. Also, a thing to note is that my brother did pay for the hotel that we stayed at in Ontario and food one of the other nights. So accommodation, you could probably add like another $110, but I didn't because that money did not come out of my pocket. Moving right along to June when I did the first two sections of the Idaho BDR. So this trip came in way under budget because I didn't spend as much time en route as I had planned to. So in total, the Idaho BDR trip was $605.53 with an average spend of $46.58 per day. For once, accommodation is not the top of the list, but restaurants is with $178.35. We did end up eating out quite a bit. Accommodation comes in at $140, which was a mix of a hotel that we stayed at in Twin Falls and then a couple of the other nights camping. Not included in this budget was the dehydrated food that I took along this trip that was sent to me by the wonderful Two Wheels Two Vegan. So I was eating dehydrated meals for dinner most nights, and then I had oatmeal and my tea for breakfast. And in July, I was invited by Revzilla to the first ever Get On ADV Fest in Sturgis, South Dakota. They actually held it at the Buffalo Chip, which was really cool. They did cover my ticket to the event, so I did not have to pay for that, so that is not included in the budget. But I did decide to take my truck camper and tow my motorcycle. So this trip ended up costing quite a bit, and I don't think I really tracked a whole lot besides fuel for the truck. One of the reasons that I ended up taking the truck was so that I could lower the barrier to entry to convince my brother to go with me if he didn't have to pay for gas to get there and back. We didn't really pay for accommodation the whole trip. So in total, I have $1,144, minus like all the weird miscellaneous things that I did write down. The gas for my truck was $1,079. I knew that taking the truck was going to be a lot steeper than just taking a bike, but it's still painful. And I'm definitely going back to Get On ADV Fest for sure. Gary had an absolute blast and is already planning, so I will be back. I did Orygun Run at the beginning of September and photographed it and documented it for Easy Rider, which was so much fun. Orygun Run is like this tight-knit grassroots event, and you ride from point to point every day for like 3 or 4 days. It's a long weekend, essentially. In total, I spent $116, $60.85 on transportation, and $55.90 on restaurants. Obviously, like camping and accommodation was included in the price of the ticket to the event, which was comped for me by Easy Rider since I was documenting it for them. Moving on to Overland Expo West in Flagstaff, Arizona, which was the last big trip for me for the year. And I have to say a huge thank you to Onyx Off-Road for making it possible for me to go. They paid for my ticket to be there in exchange for me working a couple hours in the booth. And they also sponsored a video on the way down, which made it possible for me to go at all. So in total for the Overland Expo trip, it was $1,069 with an average daily spend of $76.37. Accommodation snuck in there at $394.33. I did stay in 4 hotel rooms during the trip, 3 of which were because it was just so cold. Gas for this trip was $268.50. Not too bad. So roughly if I tacked on the money that I probably spent going home for Rocky Mountain Roll and the couple of overnight trips that I did earlier in the year, I think I would still be around the $4,600 mark for the whole year, which considering that this is my job, isn't that bad really. And also like that's like a whole year of a lot of trips. I will also be tracking my budget for the next cross-country trip. And I will, of course, be including the cost of oil and maintenance. A couple of people who watched the budget breakdown for the first cross-country trip wanted to make sure that I included the cost of those things and also the food that I take along at the start of the trip as well. So I have heard you, and I will be doing that for the next cross-country trip. Yeah! Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed this. I like watching other people's budget breakdowns when they come back from a trip. I think it's fascinating, so I hope that this was useful to somebody. Question for my answering crew. If you do track your spending during trips, what is your average spend per day? If you know it, I would be very interested to know. Okay, I'll see you guys later.